I've waited for this moment, so let me take advantage of it. Pencil is 15 years old. This is the first time I can say I have been at more than half of your Principal for a Day events. And that may suggest I'm getting a little long in the tooth with respect to this job, but nevertheless, I love this lunch, because after all, you can't serve wine in school cafeterias. And so to see so many principals and others sitting around drinking wine in the middle of the afternoon, it's like what my daughter used to call a big guy experience, so I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Michael, I want to thank you. While you were talking, I leaned over to Lisa and said, it's just extraordinary, the work that you have done, the level to which you have taken the organization, and the award you won as the best nonprofit. I really is so well deserved. Lisa, obviously, it's your vision that made this happen, and I think it's not by happenstance that the other two school districts that are now penciled up are Baltimore, where Andres Alonso is, and Rochester, where J.C. Broussard is, two alumni from the New York City public school system, because they get the value of this, having seen what's happened. The Pencil board and staff, thank you. All of you who've partnered with us, thank you. I'm going to come back to this because this is a seminal moment in public education, but it's really important what you're doing here. And I know this is not, as I once said to you in the beginning, this is not just a one-time, one-day, one-train experience. You really had deepened your partnership with our schools, and that's critical to both what we're doing in the city, but really ultimately the kind of nation we will be. And then finally, and to me most importantly, I want to thank all of the principals who are with us, the people who work in our schools. They really are America's unsung heroes. And there's nobody more important in the food chain than a school leader, because it makes the school happen. Think about it from your own experience. In all seriousness, you know, you send your kid to a school, and for every parent in this room, that's one of the biggest decisions you ever make. And I promise you, there are no great schools without great school leadership. And so these people really deserve not just our gratitude, but they should be America's true heroes. And perhaps unsurprisingly, the first man to start the clapping over that was Ernie Logan. Not because he collects dues from them, but because he appreciates how valuable they are. Let me say a word about Ernie Logan. So, you know, when you're in a labor management structure, there are always issues. And if you have any doubt about it, just pick up the newspaper every day in New York City, and you'll hear about all of those issues. But I want to say candidly and publicly, I could not hope for a better relationship than a relationship I have had with Ernest Logan since he took over the CSA. It's not that he and I agree. It's not that last night at like midnight, I got this white-hot email, he's going to take my head off, you know, your tush will be in jail by morning, all of that kind of stuff. No, it's not. It's just that I've never doubted for a second that he shares a deep commitment to improving education for all children in this city, that he himself was an extraordinary school leader, and that it is never, ever personal. Oftentimes, we have disagreements, sometimes, as I said, heated disagreement, but it is always about, is this the right policy? Are we going about it in the right way? Are we missing this piece or not missing that piece? And I think of him, even though he's the head of a union, is truly one of the great public servants in his city. Here's to you, Ernie Logan. Now, as everyone said, this is an incredible time in public education. I mean, think about it, Waiting for Superman, Race to the Top, NBC's Education Nation, Mark Zuckerberg, who's like 14 years old, just gave $100 million to schools in Newark. I mean, no, God bless him. Really, when I was 14, I wanted to give $100 million to schools in Queens. So, I mean, and probably of all the things in the 8 years that I've been here, now almost 8.5 years that I've been here, last week I was on The View. Now, let's be candid. I would have never expected, do I look like View material? I mean, come on. So, but this is like our moment, but it's critical that we seize this moment. You know, Michael alluded to it, but I'm going to just put it out there, straight out there. In America today, if we stay on the course we're on in K-12 education, we as a country, we as a people are going to pay an enormous price. I'll just give you a couple of quick statistics to wrap your head around. From 1983, at A Nation at Risk, when we said then that if a foreign power had imposed our educational achievement on this country, in 1983, we would have considered it an act of war. From then until 2010, we have essentially doubled in real dollars our spend in this nation on K-12 education, and I think we're more at risk today than we were then. It's not because there aren't terrific people like the people in this room who are committed to transforming. It's because the system is mired in rules and practice that need to change so that we can do the kind of work that I think talented educators want to do. We're too caught up from the bureaucracy through the union contracts into these micromanaging rules that I don't think unleash the capacity and talent of people who are really trying to do transformative work. But it's not going to be satisfactory for this country to be 21st in math, 24th or 25th in science, and in every one of those areas moving in the wrong direction. When I went to school in New York City, America, of all the industrialized countries, first in percentage of college graduates and first in a percentage of high school graduates. Today, in high school graduates, we're toward the bottom, and in college graduates, we're in the middle. And when we see what's going on in education in India and China, and literally those people want to eat our lunch, particularly a lunch like this one, when you think about all of that, it's really time to sober up and think we have got to do things very, very differently. We've got to reward excellence. We have got to recruit the best and the brightest to go into teaching and into the principalships and assistant principalships. We've got to use technology in an entirely different level. I mean, think about that. We call this thing a computer lab. Hello? Like it's like a test tube or something for kids. Computers are a means by which to change the entire instructional dynamic. In any field but ours, it happened a long time ago. So we need to be bold and think differently. And words like innovation have got to be part of dialogue. All these people from the private sector, if they didn't know how to innovate, they wouldn't be here having lunch today, right? The world is moving at warped speed, and we in education think we can crawl along. So yes, this is our moment. But the question is, will we seize this moment, come together as a city, as a school system, and all the various factors, and say we're going to do something we haven't done in the past. We're going to create an environment in which we truly put children at the front end of the telescope, and that we insist that we will try things differently and insist that innovation, excellence, competition, choice, all the things that work in every other segment of our society work well here. None of those things are perfect. But collectively, they have led America to be, even today, the strongest economic power in the entire world. We need an education system commensurate with the requirements of the 21st century. And if we keep doing the same old, folks, we're going to keep getting the same old, same old. So that's why a day like today is so important to me, because the people who are here, you know, everyone says they go watch Superman, and they say, waiting for Superman, what can I do? And the people in this room, let's be candid, you're privileged people, your kids will get a good education. But what can you do? There are two things you can do. One, double down your bet on pencil. Get more and more involved with our schools. Get your employees involved. Our kids need mentoring, they need tutoring, they need role models, they need leadership. Our principals need support. We could use a few extra dollars. These are tough times for our schools. Double down on your commitment to pencil. And second of all, get involved in the larger discussion. Sure, your kid, my kid, Lisa's kid, they'll be fine. But the America we know and love will not be fine. We still have racial and ethnic achievement gaps to make up, which are the shame of this, the greatest nation in the world. But if we exacerbate, as we are now, those gaps by international achievement gaps, we're going to put our country in a deep hole. We're going to have a country of relatively few haves and many, many have-nots. And we're not going to be able to escape that. America created the greatest middle class in history by betting on education, by making secondary school universal in the first half of the 20th century, and after the war by sending people from every walk of life to college and to university. And we need to come together in this seminal moment and pull together as a people and say, we can't live comfortably if our kids are 25th in math, 21st in science, and we are going to commit ourselves to doing things differently. I always end my speeches these days with the following thought, because I am a product of the American dream. I grew up in public housing right across the Queensboro Bridge here, and I stood on the shoulders of great teachers at Bryant High School to see a world you cannot see from the first floor of the Woodside houses. But the question we as a people, as a nation, have got to answer is the 21st century going to become the century in which the American dream became an American memory? And the only way to answer that is to look hard and honestly at the education we are providing to our children. The rest of the world isn't going to wait for us. Thank you again for your partnership with our school.